Hi there, it's Jana Eubank. I'm here today as a Close to My Heart ambassador to share with you one of the layouts that I created using the February Craft with Heart subscription kit. This one is adorable. It features these adorable rainbow colored pattern papers, and I'm going to be working with this set right here that says Happy Every Day, and then I will be working with this set with the blue pie shape a little bit in another video. These kits are a monthly subscription kit, and each kit includes 2 double page layouts. And you saw at the beginning of the video that there is a photo of what the layouts look like, and then there's also instructions and of course all the pieces to put the layout together. So I'm working with this set, and I have decided that instead of a 2-page layout, I'm going to use the components to create a single page layout. So I'm going to cut apart these 2 background papers. I'm going to use this black banner along with this pink circle, and then I'm also going to cut out the rainbow circle. In the background, you can see that I have pulled out a piece of grid paper from my stash, and I have matted that with some black cardstock, and that's going to be my background. So I'm going to go ahead and get this cut out. I'm just using these large scissors. I like to use these longer pairs of scissors when I'm doing large cuts like this. It just makes for a nice smooth cut. And they're especially handy like when I'm cutting out little journaling strips and things like that. I just really like them. And anyway, I have a ton of scissors in my stash, but and I use them all for different things. So here I've placed the 2 circles together on the layout like this, and I thought at first that I would place them at the top of the page, and I actually really like how that looks, but I do end up flipping it around and putting it at the bottom of the layout eventually. I had cut out those 2 blue slices of circles and thought that I might tuck those in a corner somewhere, but they just weren't working for me, so I opted to leave those off. So here is where I've decided to place the design of the layout towards the bottom, and I have put together these 2 circles. There's a bit of a gap in between them, but that's okay because my photos will cover that gap. So I can fudge it a little bit and make it look like these circles, that rainbow circle is a full complete circle. Now, I like to work in odd numbers, so I wanted to put a 3rd circle on this page, and I remembered that the journal spot for this page is a circle. So I have peeled that off the sticker sheet, placed it on some black cardstock, and then in a moment I'm going to use a circle die from my stash to cut that out. In the meantime, I pulled off this little border strip that has some black and white speckles on it, and I just adhered that right on top of the black banner to give that a bit more detail. Here's where I've cut out that journal spot, and this is exactly how the layout is going to end up, but I do kind of fidget with it for a minute, move the pieces around just to play with them and see if just to kind of experiment and see if I wanted them in a different configuration, but I do end up going right back to this. So I don't know if you guys do that. I tend to do that a lot. I like to play with the pieces and move them around, but I really should just trust my initial instinct because 9 times out of 10, that's what I end up doing. So just a funny little side note there. I like that black circle up in the top right corner because it does balance out the punch of black in that banner piece at the bottom. The next thing I'm going to do is to punch out all the little die cut pieces from this sheet in the kit, and I have the hearts and the rainbow. I'm going to skip the letters because the letters are intended to layer on top of the Happy Everyday title that's printed on the background papers. And since I'm not using the printed background papers, I don't need those letters. I do cut out this black border piece, and with the idea of maybe creating an L shape with the 2 black pieces on the layout, but it felt like it was interrupting the flow of the circles, so I left that off. So for the title, I'm going to use these letters that were printed on the background paper, and I'm going to fussy cut them out and just use the title, make the title be Every Day. These photos are about my girls coming home from school every day and doing their homework together in the kitchen. So these are just some snapshots that I've done, and I love that these papers are so colorful because they match the memory that I'm recording. The girls on this particular day were working on some really fun homework things. So my daughter in the bottom photo, she was creating a dimensional state map with a bunch of different colored pieces of salt dough. And then my daughter in the top photo, she was working on math, which doesn't seem like a colorful project, but what she was doing is, I don't know if you can tell from this angle, but there's little dots along the left margin of her paper. And what she was doing was she was lining up Skittles across in the margin of her paper about every 2 or 3 math problems, and that was her way of giving herself a little bit of motivation so she could get through her assignment. She doesn't particularly love math, and so for every 3 problems or so she would reward herself with a Skittle, which I thought was hilarious, so I had to snap a picture. So even though I didn't print my photos in color, it was definitely a colorful memory, and I love that the rainbow pattern papers kind of mimic that or remind me of that. So I did get these letters cut out and punch the hearts out as well, and I'm applying everything to my page with some thin foam squares to just give it a little bit of dimension. Along the top of the screen you can see that the light is kind of beaming in through my window. I apologize if that's distracting. It was a late afternoon and the sun was just setting and changing every few minutes, but it should even back out here in a minute. Alright, you can see that I have played with these die cuts and these stickers, but this is where I settle on having them. And then the next thing I'm going to do is take some inspiration from the original layout. Now, the original layout had some black paint splatters printed on it, and so I wanted to repeat that on this page. So I go ahead and pull out a big piece of shipping paper that I keep in my stash, as well as some black mist, and then I use these little smaller pieces of note paper to just cover up my photos, and then I go ahead and splatter that on. Now I rarely, if ever, use the mist function on these bottles. I always tend to shake it up and then just use the little stick inside to drop the droplets on my paper. And I love the variety of sizes you get, and it's just a really fun thing. Now I know that mist splattering can stress people out because it isn't predictable. It just, you kind of get what you get, and it's always the last step that you do. So it can be a little nerve-wracking, but it's a lot of fun too. So I got my journaling written on the journal spot, as you can see there, and I filled up the entire journal spot, and so I needed a place to put my date. What I decided to do is pull out these stamps from the Story by Stacy line, and this is called the Colorful Texture Set, and it's got this open arrow and an open circle, and I've decided to stamp them both out, but I decided to use the circle to put my date in. I thought those 2 shapes might be fun to use, but I did settle on the circle. Now, because the banner piece was printed on top of that circle piece, I had to just cut a slit in it so that I could tuck that circle in. I love the punches of black on this paper, on this layout, so I decided to kind of define these circles a little bit more by outlining the edges of them, and then I also outlined the edge of my paper. And then that's it. This layout is complete. I do come back in and tie a bit of twine on the letter D of the word day, and then I also added some sparkles and bitty sparkles to the hearts, and you can see that a bit better in these close-up photos. Again, this is the February Craft with Heart kit by Close to My Heart. I'll be back soon with another layout using this kit. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Jana Eubank. See you again soon.